About half the conversations I have with corporate executives follow the same pattern. We'll be talking about strategy or a team issue or next steps in their career. And at some point, usually about 20 minutes in, the tone shifts. The energy in the room changes. They slow down. They look past you for a second. And then they say some version of the same sentence. I've been thinking about going private. Sometimes it comes out confident, like a decision that's already half made. Sometimes it's barely a whisper, an idea they haven't even admitted to themselves yet. Sometimes it's wrapped in a disclaimer. I mean, I'm not seriously looking, but. And yet they brought it up. Nobody mentions leaving by accident, which means the thought is real, even if the plan isn't. I've been hearing this more and more in the last couple of years, and it's not random. Geopolitics, economic instability, sanctions, entire markets being redrawn, all of that hits corporations directly. A lot of large companies have gone into a kind of holding pattern. They're not collapsing, but they're not growing either. Budgets are frozen, headcount is flat, new projects are shelved, and the people inside those companies, smart, ambitious people who used to see a clear path ahead, are starting to realize the whole structure around them has stopped moving, so they look outside. This is The Other Side, a series about what happens when senior corporate leaders decide to cross over into private business. Each episode covers a different stage of that journey, and this first one is about the very beginning, the moment the idea shows up. What's actually behind it when it deserves your attention, and what you're really putting on the table if you decide to move. When a VP or C level executive starts seriously considering the jump, there's usually a reason. Sometimes it's just one thing, sometimes it's two or three layered on top of each other. The most common one is the ceiling. You've risen as far as the organization lets you. The next step either doesn't exist, or it's 5 to 7 years away, or it depends entirely on internal politics you can't control. You've done everything right. You've delivered. And you're still stuck because the structure above you isn't moving. The corporate ladder just stops leading where you need it to go. Then there's the politics itself. A new CEO comes in. Priorities shift. Coalitions form that you weren't invited into. You didn't lose, the game just changed, and your position in the new layout is weaker than it used to be. Money is another one. In a corporation, your comp is tied to grades and benchmarks. There's a ceiling, and you can see it from where you stand. Private business runs on different economics, less predictable, but with a much bigger upside if you deliver. And then there's influence, the desire to actually do things, not just approve them, to make decisions instead of preparing decks for the people who make decisions, to see the result of your work directly, not filtered through three layers of reporting. And finally, there's a quieter reason that a lot of people don't fully articulate even to themselves. The company you work for just stopped being an interesting place. It's not failing, but it's not moving. No new initiatives, no energy, just a low grade atmosphere of waiting. You don't want to leave something specific, but staying has started to feel pointless. Any of these reasons can be legitimate, but the question that matters most is this: are you moving towards something, or are you running from something? People who go into private business because they want a different scale, a different speed, a different kind of accountability, they tend to handle the transition well. The adjustment is hard, but they know why they're doing it, and that clarity carries them through the rough patches. But the ones who are running from a bad boss, a rough year, or office politics, they usually discover that the problems came with them. The frustration, the patterns, the things that made them unhappy, those don't stay behind when you change your business card. Changing the company doesn't fix anything if the issue is internal. When someone comes to me with the idea of making this move, I ask them a few things, not to talk them out of it, but so they can hear their own answers. The first question is this: if your current employer offered you a role one level up tomorrow with the same authority and scope you're looking for elsewhere, would you stay? If the answer is yes, then your problem isn't with the corporate world as a system, it's with your specific situation, and that might be easier to solve without blowing everything up. The second question is harder. Have you ever worked in an environment with no procedures, no budget cycle, and no HR department to escalate to, where it's just you and the owner, and your only protection is the result you delivered last quarter. If you haven't, you need to understand that you're stepping into a world you genuinely don't know. It's not worse than what you had, it's not better, it's fundamentally different. And the third, are you ready for the fact that during the first 6 to 9 months, your years of experience will work against you almost as often as they work for you? Skills that were perfectly honed for the corporate environment can actually get in the way in a private company. The instinct to build consensus before acting, the reflex to document everything, the expectation that decisions go through committees, all of that slows you down in a world that moves differently. And the adjustment takes time, time during which you feel incompetent. For someone who's used to being the expert in the room, the person everyone turns to, that's a deeply uncomfortable experience. Some people push through it, some don't. A corporation builds an infrastructure around its executives that becomes invisible over time. Stable income, career predictability, social status, health insurance, retirement plan, a professional network that operates inside the industry. You stop noticing any of it, the same way you stop noticing the walls of your office. It's just there. But when you leave, you realize none of it was a bonus. It was the fabric of your daily life. And suddenly you're standing outside that structure, and things that used to take a phone call now take months to rebuild from scratch. If your move involves relocation, the stakes multiply. And this is where family enters the picture in a way that most people underestimate. Your spouse loses their professional context. Your kids change schools, languages, friends. The social circle you built over years, the people you call when things go wrong, the neighbors who watch your kids, the community that makes life feel stable, all of it stays behind in the old city. I've seen executives handle the professional side of a transition brilliantly and completely fall apart on this front. 6 months in, they're thriving at work and miserable at home. And that's not a situation anyone can sustain for long. The legal side feels abstract at the idea stage, but it turns into very concrete math very quickly. A non compete clause tied to your current contract can block your most interesting options on the market, sometimes for a year or more. A bonus that's 4 months away might be worth waiting for. Unvested equity you'd forfeit could add up to a full year's salary. All of this needs to be calculated before you start talking to the market, not after, because once you're in conversations, the clock starts ticking and you lose negotiating leverage with every week that passes. Even when the motivation is solid and the readiness is real, the moment of transition matters enormously. Leaving in the middle of a conflict with your boss means leaving from a position of weakness, and the market reads that. Walking away before closing a key project leaves unfinished business that will show up in your references. Quitting 3 months before your bonus means losing money you've already earned. The best transitions I've seen were made from a position of strength. The person was in good standing, had results to show, and left clean relationships behind. They didn't leave because they were pushed out. They left because they found something worth leaving for. And believe me, the business owner on the other end can always tell the difference between someone who's choosing and someone who has nowhere else to go. That distinction shapes everything: the offer you get, the trust you're given, the amount of runway you have to prove yourself. If everything I've said so far hasn't changed your mind, if after all of it, the idea is still there, try answering 3 questions for yourself. What do I want from the next role? What am I willing to give up for it? And what outcome 2 or 3 years from today would tell me the move was worth it? If you have clear answers, the idea deserves to become a plan, not a fantasy, not a daydream you revisit on bad Mondays, an actual plan with steps and timelines. But if what comes out instead is, I just want something new, or I'm tired of corporate life, it's worth digging deeper before you move. Maybe what you need isn't a transition. Maybe it's a pause or a different role within the corporate world. There's no shame in realizing the idea wasn't ready yet. The only mistake is acting on it before you understand what's driving it. In the next episode, we'll talk about how opportunities actually work in private business, why these roles never show up on LinkedIn, how to work with a recruiter, and how to evaluate a company that has no annual report and no Glassdoor page. This has been The Other Side. I'm Mike Toczynski. Thank you for listening.